looking at rational numbers, but making sure that we know do we use certain forms, what's the best form to use. So basically we are selecting the appropriate rational number. So when we do this, rational numbers, remember, are all of our numbers that can be expressed as fractions, which means those are our decimals, fractions, percents, and whole numbers. Sometimes we have to choose which one is the best to use. So in this situation, how much money is 7% of $12.60? Well, we have some options, right? We could use the percent and find what is maybe 1% of $12.60, and then find 7 of those. We could use a fraction, 7 over 100, and multiply that by 1260 over 1. Or we could use the decimal, 0.07 times 1260. I don't know about you, but I think the decimal is the easiest one to use there, but it's up to you which one is the best for you. So in other examples, it becomes a bit more clear. The discount is 33.33% of that $12.60. That's how much we're taking off. So would we change it to a fraction, decimal, or leave it as a percent? Well, when we look at 33.33%, we would say the decimal form of that is 0.3 repeating. I really don't want to use a repeating decimal to try to multiply something. So maybe I use the fraction form, which is just 1/3. That's a whole lot easier to take 1/3 of $12.60 to say, well, I'm just going to divide by 3 and find that this is $4.20. So I, in that case, would definitely use a fraction. And then this bottom one, how much is 40% of a half of $12.60? Well, lots of options here. Some people like to put them into decimal form, so 0.4 times 0.5 times my $12.60. We can definitely do that. Maybe you like the fractions of 2/5 times 1/2 because that can reduce to 1/5 times 1260 so that you just have to divide by 5. Okay. If you wanted to do percentages, that would work as well. Okay, 40% of 50% of this $12.60. Well, that just means that we're going to end up taking 40% of 50%. That would mean that we end up taking 2/5 of that, so we have 20%, and we want 20% of 1260. Regardless of how you do it, or maybe you mix up some of these forms, that's fine. But we end up with something like $2.52, something like that, if I'm doing it correctly. Right? So it's up to you and how your brain works, which appropriate number, but however you do it, you should be able to get the right number. Okay? If you are converting these measures correctly, you should be good to go. So let's just try a couple more of them. How much is 66 2/3% of 5/6 of 1260? Well, I'm definitely going to use the fraction form of 66 2/3, which is just 2/3. Of 5/6, so I'm going to multiply by 5/6, which can reduce a little bit, which is nice, of $12.60. Meaning that I'm going to take 5/9 of 1260, so I can take 1260 and multiply by 5, and then I'll divide by 9. It ends up that our answer just comes out to $7. Okay? And then this next one, find 20% of 1/4 of $12. Well, for me, fractions work out pretty well for this one, so I do 1/5 times 1/4 times $12, which means that I'm going to take 1/20 of 12, which when we do 12 divided by 20, we just get 60 cents. Oh, there we go, 60 cents. That's our answer. But you could have used the decimal forms. You could have used percentages. It's totally up to you. Okay, 33 1/3% of $12. Well, 33 1/3 is just 1/3 times $12 is just $4. Okay, definitely a fraction is a very easy way to go. And then to find 80% of $21.50, would you use a decimal or a fraction? Why? Lots of ways to do this. For me, it's easiest to do the decimal form, 0.8. We multiply that by 2150, so it's just a simple multiplication. So when we do 2150 times 0.8, we end up with $17.20. Okay, you could have used fractions, you could have used just the plain percentages, up to you. Okay, here's another couple that you can try for yourself, 25% of $24. I would use a fraction for that because I can just take 1/4 of $24, that's pretty easy. And which expression is the most appropriate rational number to announce a discount of $14 from the regular price of $40? Well, with this one, if I want to figure out what that discount is, how much off I'm getting as far as not just dollars, but a portion of this, I would say 14 out of $40 ends up giving me 0.35. So we would say, okay, do I use this 0.35 to announce a discount? You have 0.35 off of everything. No, I would probably use a percentage. I would say 35% discount. That's typically how we talk about discounts. And last one here. In a survey, 180 out of 280 women surveyed agreed with the mayor, while 150 out of 275 men agree with the mayor. Find the amount of men and then the amount of women who agree with the mayor. Would you tell somebody the fraction, the decimal, or the percent? So let's just talk about the women here, and we say I have 180 out of 280 women, which I can start reducing just to make my life a little bit easier to 18 over 28, which can also reduce to 9 over 14. Now, some people would say, oh, the fraction is just fine, but just remember that not everybody truly understands fractions. And saying 9/14 of women agree with the mayor. Not everybody's going to understand what that means. You could maybe say it a little bit differently and say 9 out of 14 women agree with the mayor. That would be a bit better. But really, most people think the best in percentages. And for this one, it doesn't come out super nicely, but we can round it a little bit and say we have 62 or 64.3% of women that agree. And we can do that the same with the men. But regardless, most people think in percentages. That's what you'll see in many different newspapers or media outlets. And only sometimes do we see those fractions, rarely see the decimals. All right, well, I hope this is helpful for your homework and for studying.